So most people think sales is about convincing others, but what if it's actually about connection? What if every conversation, every choice, every relationship is a sale? Rich Lyons is back. He is a CEO, speaker, and author of the powerful book Life is Sales, which was released in October of this year. So he built his career from engineering salesperson to CEO. And along the way, he discovered a universal truth. We are all selling all of the time. So today we're diving into how embracing that mindset can transform the way we lead, parent, and live. So it's like sales in everyday life. Quick shout out to Dr. Bradley Nelson and iHeartRadio for your sponsorship. And to our audience and our listeners, please do not forget to like and subscribe. So, Rich, life is sales. That's your mantra. That's your book title. What does this phrase mean to you?
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's great to see you, Lisa. Thank you for having me. I think, early on when I started my career, like you said, I was an engineer and then I kind of got into sales because I thought I need to learn how to sell. That was the next kind of part of my development in terms of really becoming a business person. Like I'd done a lot of things, but I really didn't learn how to sell. But I realized that we're selling all the time. I had recently become a parent at the time. I mean, my kids are older now. They're grown children, 29 and 27. But back then I
Yeah,
was thinking like I'm always selling, like think about when you have young children, I was selling my daughters on their potential. I was selling
right.
them that they can do anything they want to do, especially the way the world is sometimes with women. I was like, you are going to have to fight hard, but you can do it. Like you could do whatever you put your mind to, and I'm behind you and I'm backing you, and you can do it. And that's a sale. And I'm still in that sales process with them, even as they're older. But I think if you pivot the term, because people have a big reaction to the term sales, right?
Yeah,
Because you think
true.
of the sleazy salesperson and I'm trying to sell you something you don't want or that you can't use. But if you think of really sales as service, like if I'm talking to you and I get to know you and I'm trying to help you,
Yeah,
I'm trying to help you solve a problem, right? And if you think about service, like then aren't we selling all the time? I'm selling ideas, but I'm also selling you. I think back to, when I was running my company and employees, I'm selling them on their potential, what they can
yeah,
do, what they can live into. And if we don't have people like that in our lives, we're never going to maximize our potential and reach our potential. Someone isn't pushing us and nudging us because sometimes we forget. So, from that perspective, I think we're always selling. And why
hmm,
not? Why is it such a negative? Because I'm selling you on something that I know you can do. And sometimes you forget.
yeah. I think there's a misconception about money, and there's a meaning attached to money, currency, some kind of negative connotation, and people
Right.
associate it to sales. And when they hear the word sales, they think of money, and then they think of something negative, and that salespeople are just trying to get their money. But I
Right.
also hear a lot of people that are like, I am not a salesperson, but I'm completely on board with you. I believe everyday life is essentially sales. So what do you think those people are missing when they say, I am not a salesperson?
Well, we tried to recontextualize it within the firm because everyone would say that, like, I'm not in sales, like, because I had
Yeah.
engineers, I had architects, I had, different people, and they're like, I'm not a salesperson. And so I tried to recontextualize it to say, we're customer focused.
Mm.
Like, can we focus on the customer? Can we focus on what's best for them? And we used to say, like, can you put yourself in the customer's shoes? Like that's really hard. And I think it's helpful in this day and age, and especially in the holiday season. Sometimes people get very sad and miss people, and we don't know what someone else is going through. So this
Yeah.
concept of put yourself in someone's shoes, like can you really go, instead of just getting angry and you're an asshole and you cut me off or whatever, and we're impatient. It's a stressful time of year sometimes. I think it's a beautiful time of year too, but it can be stressful. But instead, like let me see if I can get in your shoes for a second and understand what's going on in your world. And if we're really taking sales as a service and focusing on someone else besides ourselves, get outside of ourselves into like, how can I help you? And if I
Right.
can't help you, like we used to say, maybe I know someone else that can. Like
Right.
honestly say as a salesperson, I'm not the right fit, but I know someone else that I think can help you. And that's a huge
Hmm.
purpose too. And that's when you talk about connection and having a network and knowing a lot of people. And I think that's the spin I'm trying to put on sales, that sales is really about service. It's, of course, we want to sell a product or we want to sell service. I get that. But at the same time, sometimes it's not right and it's not a good fit. So can I still help you by saying, I know someone else that would be a great fit and be a connector and connect people and just help people? Like that's
Yeah.
the, if you think about it as a blessing, like, can I be the biggest blessing I could be to people, which means, can I help them?
Right. Yeah. So, how can seeing every interaction as a sale kind of make us better communicators, parents, leaders?
That's interesting. I mean, it's funny, when you think of sales, the traditional sales, like you're always trying to get someone to say yes to something. So
Hmm.
it's interesting. I never thought of this from the perspective you're asking me. Like in every conversation, do I have a next step or do I have
Mm.
a yes? Do you know what I mean? Like we're having even a short conversation. Is there a next step? Meaning, well, let me call you next week. Or
Or let me
is
let me
there,
say this. Maybe there is, but it's 2 years from now. But because we're interacting and connecting, you're going
right?
to remember me. I'm going to remember you. And then because we have that connection, you'll be imprinted in my mind. And 2 years from now, I might remember, oh, Rich can help me with that. And then I'll get in touch with you. And so the sale might not be immediate, like immediate gratification. It may be
Absolutely.
later on. And it'll be extremely genuine.
No, I think that's super important. And if you think about it, sometimes if you don't have a next step, nothing's really going to happen. And it doesn't have to be you're selling something, but think if you have a nice conversation with someone and you say, "Oh yeah, let's get together again," but you don't set a date. It's not happening.
I
So
know.
it's
Yeah.
being more
That's the
intentional.
worst.
It's being intentional in your conversations, which means, are you closing a deal? Meaning a next step. That's closing a deal. A yes. Like, hey, do you want to get together next week? How about Tuesday at 10? Like,
Right.
can we close a deal there? Because otherwise, you're like, I mean, how often do you see someone like, yeah, let's get together, let's grab coffee? Well, it doesn't happen. I mean, unless someone is intentional and says, okay, I'll call you, or okay, let's put it on the calendar, or let's make it very specific. So I think this concept of connecting is really, really important. And I think we have to be intentional about those connections, and like one easy way for me, because people ask me, like, how do you stay in touch with people? Like, how do you do that, in terms of connecting? And I put people's birthdays in my calendar.
Mm.
So I have a lot of people's birthdays in my calendar. And so like today is, Joey's birthday, a guy I know. So I'll text him. And it takes me 1 second. Happy birthday, Joey. I hope you have a great day. I hope you take time to celebrate you because I think you're a great person.
Right.
That takes me a minute, but it's a
Hmm.
connect, and I feel good, they feel good. And it's not that hard, I think, to make a difference, to people.
Yeah. Talk to us more about everyday life. Like you were talking about sales with your family. How did you get this kind of, I don't know, mindset shift? Maybe it's a light bulb moment where you're like, wait a minute, I think everything in life is sales.
Yeah, it's funny. I do think it was, because I kind of registered the URL like Life is Sales over 20 years ago. So I
Oh,
somehow
wow.
had this aha moment, that I kind of got like, wait, because I was that guy. Like if you think of me, I'm an engineer and then I got my MBA and I'm, very superior, let's say, right? Like, oh, well, I have my MBA, And so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do sales. Like that's a step beneath. Like that's what we think about sales. Like that's a step down. Like, come on,
Right.
I'm not gonna do sales. But I did. I kind of stepped out of I was a VP of marketing and I headed up sales teams, but I never sold myself. So I kind of stepped back and say, okay, I'm going to carry a bag. I'm going to become an actual salesperson and have a quota. And it was the hardest job I've ever had. Hardest job
Mm.
I've ever. Because think about it. What job is more accountable than sales? I mean, you're
Yeah.
not like I almost had a sale. I almost got that close. It doesn't matter. It's numbers. You close
Hmm.
it, you didn't. You have a quota. You make your quota or you don't, and you can get fired. So all of a sudden I was in this like, I got to figure this out. So I was trying to figure it
Mhm.
out. Like, at the time, the company I joined, the CEO was like, if you have 3 meetings a week, that's fine. And I was in this, I needed more support. So I joined this sales group, and I was in this sales group, and they're like, dude, you have to have at least five. You can't just have three. And I'm like, no, the CEO says three. That's all I need to have. And they're like, no, no, no. And a friend of mine said, listen, like everyone has breakfast and lunch every day. So that's 10 meetings a week. 10 easy meetings. Take someone out for coffee, take someone for lunch, have 10 meetings a week. But it's the connecting. It's just being out there and putting your energy out into the world. So I kind of got this idea that it's almost like karma, right? Put yourself out and then things will come back. But if you're just sitting and waiting, like, no, I think someone's going to call me and they're going to want to buy something from me, I'll just sit here and wait for the phone to ring. And I think
Right.
too often we take that kind of approach, like, someone's going to call me.
Mm.
But really, I think what I learned was put yourself out there, be out there, try to help people. And sometimes those aren't the people that you're going to get any business from, but all of a sudden someone comes from over here.
Yeah,
But it's
exactly.
because my energy's in the world, because I'm putting myself out there.
Yeah, that's an interesting place to be, like working for a quota and having to make a certain amount of money. And when you see that money coming in and you don't see it coming in, that's tough. And it's hard to balance the need for the money to be coming in with the authenticity of sales. So, I mean, if I walk into a store where the employees are working on a commission, you can sure tell when some of them are not making sales because they come in like a shark. They're like, you walk in and they're like all over you. And that's an immediate turn off for me. Like, if I can tell that a salesperson is coming in because they want my pocketbook versus they don't actually care about what I need, I'm not going to buy anything from them, no matter what. No matter how much I need that product, in my mind, I'm like, this person doesn't actually care. So then I feel like I don't trust them. And I just lose all faith in all of it. That happens within a split second.
Yeah. I mean, that authenticity that you bring up is key. And I think, like you said, it's a tough line to walk, because there's this scarcity, right? Meaning I could lose my job. I need to make quota. I need to provide for my family, but can I choose in that moment to trust, right?
Hmm.
Trust. I mean that, and this is not easy, right? But can, like, say I'm that salesperson and I know I'm down and I could lose my job and you come in a store, can I choose to trust that I'm just gonna see if I can help you?
Hmm.
Whether I get a sale or not. Like, can I just have a conversation with you, see how you are? Are you looking for something? Can I help you? And if not, that's cool, right? But
Hmm.
I just make a genuine connection with you
Hmm.
and do the kind of like the do the right thing versus try to push a product on you and be overly aggressive and turn you off, and then you're like you're gone. But it is,
Yeah.
when I have to manage my anxiety and my fear and choose in that moment to trust and just be with you as a person and see if I can serve you.
Another problem I see salespeople do is they make it about themselves. I was shopping for a recliner and I remember walking this furniture store and the salesman was telling me about every chair that he had in his place. And he never asked me about what I was looking for. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I'm taking the time out of my day to come in here and buy a chair, and you haven't asked me a question about why I'm here. That was a huge thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of need to sometimes manage our anxiety, right? Like I talk a lot about containment. Like I think about, like,
Right. So
we
you're
always
saying
have,
that he could have been anxious, maybe?
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like he's anxious, so what do a lot of us do when we're anxious? We just talk, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
right? Instead of, I mean, contain a little bit and ask a question and then listen.
Right.
And it's hard
Yeah.
sometimes to be quiet. It's
As I'm being quiet right
uncomfortable.
now.
It's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable though.
Yeah, it can be, but that's where you get the answers, I find, like in sales. So What's one practical way listeners can sell ideas or value more effectively without feeling fake or pushy? Kind of like we're talking about right now. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is exactly right. And you brought it up. Like, ask questions. Like, be curious. It's funny, like Ted Lasso, right? Be curious if you watch Ted Lasso. But I
Yes,
think it
I love
is.
that.
I
Yes.
love Ted Lasso. I mean, but I think it is like be curious about someone and ask questions, and don't just be over here. Like, can we be over there and try to get to know the person and ask questions. And when you ask a question, then you need to shut up and let them answer. Because a lot of times we'll ask a question, then we'll keep talking, and we'll just be like, "Oh yeah, what do you think about it?" And you answer the question for yourself, and you're going, and it's anxiety driven because I'm anxious. Instead of
Right.
I have to contain my anxiety a little bit and just ask a question, then take a breath. And the
Right.
silence can be uncomfortable, and let the silence be, because that's one of the most effective sales tools. Just be quiet. Just let them talk.
Yeah. No, I was laughing because you whispered, be quiet.
But it's funny though, because you can see like as the tension builds, like who's gonna talk first?
Right. Yeah. What about empathy and emotional intelligence? How do those two very important things fit into sales and even just everyday life?
Yeah, I mean, social emotional intelligence is critical. I mean, in sales, but in everyday life. But it starts with self-awareness.
Yeah.
Like if you think like before I can get to empathy and before I can be with you, can I be with me? And I think
Mm,
that's what we miss. Can I be aware here? Like, let's do five primary emotions: fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy. And let's assume that feelings are going on all the time. One might be dominant over the other, but think of like I have this tornado going on inside of me all the time. And I could be afraid and you could say something that might hurt my feelings and then I could get angry, but it's all going on. But guess what? I still get to choose. That's the awareness. I still get to choose how I want to be,
mhm.
regardless of the feeling. I don't have to become the feeling. Like I think people become fear and they become anger and they just manifest it. Instead of like, okay, I'm feeling angry. And a lot of times underneath anger is hurt and fear. Like I'm afraid. I got my feelings hurt, so now I'm going to get angry. But I still get to choose. Like, what am I trying to do? Like, what's my purpose in this meeting? And what's the higher purpose? And can I focus there instead of I'm going to pay you back because you hurt my feelings? So I think that social emotional intelligence, like being aware of me, gives me a superpower.
Mm,
And that superpower is then I can be more aware of you.
mhm.
So, like when you say empathy, I think first I have to show empathy towards myself and understand what I'm feeling, but then it allows me to know what other people are feeling. And that's where the empathy comes. But if
Right.
I'm skipping over this part, I can't just jump in and know what's going on with you unless I know what's going on with me.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about your book, Life is Sales. It sounds like it goes far beyond the business world.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely more about my journey. And obviously I grew a business and I was very successful and sold that business to a strategic and had a very successful exit. And now I'm doing board work and do some advisory work. But I think it took me a lot to get there. I mean?
Mm,
A lot, like I was an engineer, so you can imagine I'm a very rational thinker. I'm a math guy. I was an electrical engineer, so a lot of heavy math. So I'm a great problem solver, and I always try to figure things out. But I think early in my career, I would sacrifice relationship for result.
yeah.
And that's exactly what we're talking about with salespeople that are maybe not effective. They're focused on the result and they skip over the relationship.
Right.
So if you kind of pivot that, so in the book, there's a lot about growing your awareness. Like I'm a great believer in just awareness is going to change the world. If we could
Mm,
all be more aware of ourselves, then we have more choice. But when we're not aware, we fall into patterns. We just do the same thing over and over, even if it's doesn't serve us. It's kind of like that. I don't know if you a Matrix fan, the movie Matrix, when Neo is going to get out of the car and Trinity says, you know where that road goes. Like you've been there
Right.
before. Well, sometimes we'll choose it over and over because we do know where it goes. So there's
Yeah, the
no fear.
familiar.
Yeah, the familiar, right? So I think in the book, obviously I talk about sales and things, but it's more about life. And can we, come from more, be more aware so we can serve people more, which includes serving ourselves. But if we can kind of trust and be more aware, I think we can all win. So it's kind of shifting from that either or, like I win or you win, but not both of us, to that both and, like we can both win and trusting
Mhm.
that. And it's hard. And sometimes we can get burned, but I kind of believe the world is a great place and the world is a trusting place. And I choose to trust people, even if I get burned, because I can
Mhm.
take care of myself. But I'd rather live in a world where I choose to trust people.
Yeah, that is the key. I literally was messaging someone that this morning. They were telling me that they were stuck in a negative loop. And I said, well, what are you putting in your mind when you wake up in the morning? Like, how are you analyzing the world? Like, what is going on inside here? Because as soon as you choose love and faith over fear and anxiety and anger, I mean, my life shifted completely. Even stuff like I don't know, it sounds silly, but I was terrified of the dark. And then my mentor said, well, why are you afraid of the dark? And there was all these associations with it. And then he said to me, what if you just love all of those things? And so
Wow.
I imagined myself loving all the things I was afraid of that were associated with darkness. And now I'm not afraid of the dark anymore. So it's like it's crazy how you shift that frequency and like life changed dramatically. So I'm curious to know for you, like when you started, when that light bulb moment went off, how did your life change over the years with your new philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, I have to credit my wife. Like when we got engaged, which was we got married in 1990, so we probably got a long time ago. So we probably got engaged in 1989. She was working for a guy who knew a guy, one of those things, and her boss was going through a divorce. So he said to her, like, the best thing you could do is do some premarital counseling, like, and really work on your communication as a couple. And so she comes home and says, hey, my boss says, we should go do this. And I was like, fuck your boss. Like, you can imagine, like, my reaction, right? I think I was 24 maybe at the time
Oh
or
yeah.
something. And I've got the world, why in the world would I do that? Right. And I was kind of afraid, if I was honest, that she has some secrets that she couldn't tell me, or why do you want to go into therapy? Like, why would we go do counseling? Because that's insane. But I always say in our family, she's the best, salesperson. We call her the Velvet Hammer. She kind of works her way. So then next thing I know, I'm sitting in an office with Dr. Bob, who's kind of I write the book with, because he kind of comments in the book about my journey. And I'm like this, like you could tell my body language is like this, closed, like I am not happy to be here. And I think that journey really, I mean, and he told me things about me that I still to this day don't know how he knew that. Like he kind of, you're the oldest. I bet you're like this. I bet your childhood's like this. I bet you're like this. And he caught my attention. He got my attention. So that started, I guess, my journey on what I'll call personal growth or development, social emotional intelligence, because I was not open to it, and I was very stoic. And my parents divorced, so I thought conflict equals divorce. So when Gertrude, my wife, would want to talk about something, I'd be like, I don't want to talk about it. Because in my little childhood head, like if we talk and we fight and then we're going to get divorced, that was the
Right.
only solution. So I had to rewire and get that conflict can be good if you're both fighting for something, right? And it's actually worse if you're not, because then you have all these barriers. Like I kind of had this visual, like every time I'm not saying something and we're not telling each other something, like it's almost like putting a pillow in between us. And then
Yeah.
you try to hug and you can't even get close to you. You can't even touch each other. You know,
Hmm.
concept of being clear and current and present and telling the truth. And and using conflict to fight for something, not fight against something, and that feelings are okay. Like I had nothing to do with that. So I think this journey for me that I kind of describe in the book was just becoming more aware, and that how powerful feelings are, and that they're always there and they're not bad. No feeling is bad. It's just energy. It
Mm-hmm.
just is. And and then it's funny, then you have kids and you kind of, especially me having two daughters, like you kind of want them to never feel pain. Like you kind of wish as a dad, like you wish you could protect like your daughter from ever getting her heart broken or ever
Mm.
feeling pain or ever having someone be mean to them and they come home from school or whatever crying, and it's heartbreaking. And
Yeah.
you want almost want to jump into the world and defend them and fight for them, but you realize like I need to sell them on them being able to handle it. I
Mm.
need to sell them on that they can handle these things themselves and they're totally capable. And that's part of, why I think they're so successful in the world, because they understand that. I think,
Mm-hmm.
not to get too off the rails here, but I think nowadays, like kids have anxiety. I mean, some kids have anxiety, so don't get me wrong, but I think we're too anxious to give someone a pill, to make it go away versus can we teach kids and even ourselves, like, how do we deal with fear and how do we deal with anxiety? Because it is part of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a normal emotion, yet we're taught that it's not. Like it's like anti-anxiety medications, take this and you won't feel any anxiety. It's like so there's this negative connotation that anxiety is not supposed to be and it's not
Right.
real. Yet it's like a guide and a teacher in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, but I think what you just said there, I don't think people realize like it is a guide. Like it tells us sometimes where we should go. And fear also tells us where we shouldn't go. But we
Hmm.
need to make that analysis. Is this a real fear? Is this an imagined fear? Am I blowing it out of proportion and having catastrophic thinking, or is it something I really need to pay attention to? So we have to befriend our fear. And I always say to people, like people say, "Oh, I'm not afraid," like especially guys, right? I'm not afraid. Why would I be afraid? That makes me weak and blah blah blah. But think of courage, right? Without fear, there's no such thing as courage.
Hmm.
You say you're never afraid, well, then that means you can never be courageous.
Hmm.
Because, being, courageous is facing your fear and doing it anyway.
Hmm.
Welcome, welcome to life.
Yeah.
Isn't that what life is about? A lot of times we're afraid, but we do it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes life interesting. I think
Yeah,
a
it's
lot of
taking, I
people
mean,
don't like that feeling. Like
taking
the
risks.
anxiety feeling is like the gut, and that's our intuition. So fear, anxiety, and all of that is associated with our gut, which is could be considered another brain in a sense, right? Like
Yeah,
so that feeling of dis-ease and unknowing, and I think that's where the trust and faith comes in.
I agree. I agree. I think it's becoming more comfortable with your discomfort, right? I mean, if that's the way, but if we can become friends with our fear and even with our hurt, right? I think hurt was probably the toughest one for me, to acknowledge that my feelings get hurt, like instead of pretending that, I mean, on the football field, right? Or on the battlefield, I mean, maybe you don't want to acknowledge your hurt and your fear, but I mean, most of our life is not that. I mean, in relationship, it wasn't working for me to not be able to talk about my hurt and not to be able to talk about my fear. And I was doing a disservice to my daughters when they were younger, pretending like I had everything handled. No one
Mm.
had everything handled. So I had to show them that no, your dad is afraid. And let me
Hmm.
talk about it. And your dad, I am hurt. Like I get my feelings hurt all the time. And just to normalize it for them so they could go into the world and realize, oh, yeah, because life isn't, I mean, I don't mean this negative. I love life. I love living life. I love the adventure of life, but all of it is life. Being hurt is life. Having, a good cry is life. I mean, having a belly laugh is life, but all of it is life, right? You can't just say, I just want to laugh, but I'm never going to cry and never be hurt. Well, I mean, maybe if you're Buddhist, right? Like, The Buddhists talk about attachments and that suffering is caused by attachment. So let's give away all of our attachments. Well, I'm not willing to give away my wife. I'm not willing to give away my daughters. I'm very attached. And so, yes, if something happens to them, I'll be very, very hurt and very sad, but that's the life I choose. And
Hmm.
I want to feel it deeply.
Hmm. I think like the world is shifting into this new way of like conscious leadership being the way more people are gravitating towards that. And it's all about exactly that, showing your vulnerability, showing your emotion, and people are more attracted to that now than ever, I find. And I'm sure as soon as you started letting your guard down, and I mean you can validate this, but going to that therapy session that your wife forced you to go to probably changed your life in a lot of really amazing ways, because once you start showing vulnerability, it shows that you're a real human, and then people can relate to you. And then that in itself changes your whole entire life.
Oh, 100%. My life would be totally different. If you think about, like, if I look at my family history, a lot of alcoholism, a lot of affairs, a lot of acting out, right? And I think
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
when
my
I
family didn't talk about anything. It was just silence.
totally, I mean, when I drank, it was because I wanted to forget,
Yeah.
right? So that's why I stopped drinking because it didn't serve me, right? Things don't go away. Usually after I was drinking, they came back and it was worse. But I do
Yeah.
think, just that it opened my life up to more richness, more, and that came with more feeling, right? To actually feel deeply, and whether that's pain or, whether that's joy, just to feel life deeply instead of trying to be stoic and pretending like nothing impacts me, like you can't touch me, you can't impact me, you can't hurt me, you can't do anything to me. I would rather be like, you can hurt me and I can take care of myself. I'm a grown adult. I'm not a little kid anymore, but
Yeah.
I'm living this life. And yes, I'll be hurt, but that's okay. It's not the end of the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. So, for the listeners out there, what are some ways to start implementing this way of living into everyday life that'll help them kind of change their own lives in little
Yeah.
ways?
In the book, I kind of introduce a developmental model. And I think the beginning is just awareness. And that's how I began too. Like just being aware, like if you say like fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy, like just start being aware of your feelings. You don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to tell anyone, you don't have to say it, but just start being aware during the day. Like pick one feeling, fear. Like just be aware of your fear during the day. Oh my gosh, I got on an elevator and it's kind of a scary thing, right? It's uncomfortable. And if you redefine fear as not yes or no, but let's define our feelings from 1 to 10. So you get on an elevator and my fear or anxiety, whatever you want to call it, maybe it's only a 1 or a 2, but you could feel it. Like it's uncomfortable, right? So just start noticing those little moments. Like you get on an elevator and everyone's looking at the screen, or, you have to turn around and face the door and not say anything, or you say nice weather, right? And no one answers you. And you're just like, holy shit. But I think the beginning
That's the
is just
longest ride ever.
exactly. Nice weather, and everyone just goes, nothing. You're like, oh, okay, great. This is
That's
awesome.
so weird. I'm sorry. I just have to say it. It's so weird. I was at the grocery store the other day and there was like 10, six people around me in the pickle aisle. And I dropped a pickle jar and it broke everywhere and nobody acknowledged it. And I was like, okay, am I invisible right now? Like I literally imagined myself being like invisible and everyone was trying their hardest not to look in my direction. But I was like, I need someone to help me find. So I'm covered in pickle juice. There's pickles everywhere. There's glass everywhere. But like everybody was just like dead silent. It was really eerie. It was very, very
That is
strange. I don't know. It
crazy.
made me question like, why are we like this?
Exactly. So I'd say the first step is just work on that awareness. I mean, pick one
Yeah.
feeling, like notice, where you feel afraid, and notice the level of detail. Like I'm saying, just a one, you feel a little uncomfortable. You just feel a little bit in your body, and you don't have to say anything. It's not a 10. It's not like you're trembling, right? And then start noticing where you feel hurt. Someone like like you just said there, like I dropped a freaking pickle jar and no one said one word. Of course I feel hurt. I feel like I don't exist. And so for sure I feel hurt. And just
Yeah.
start noticing the feelings. And like I said, you don't have to do anything with it, but with awareness, then we get more choice. And I think life becomes much more interesting.
Mm. What do you think? If life really is sales, what is one deal worth closing every single day?
That, that's actually a very sweet proposition. I mean, I would say for me, and this is more me very personally. I mean, if I could close, and I don't think I'm very good at it, so this would be a stretch deal for me. If I could make, the people in my life, and let's say my wife, my daughters, my close friends, if I could make them feel like I love them every day,
Mm,
that would be a wonderful deal to close. Like that, I would
mm,
never want them to not think that I don't love them and I don't care about them. And if they don't feel that, then I think that's a tragedy because
mm.
we don't. I mean, life is short, right? Like I have a friend who lost his wife, 4 years ago. She was a very close friend of mine as well, and he tells everyone all the time, tells couples like hold hands. Like
Right.
I wish I held hands with my wife more often.
Yeah.
And simple things, right?
The
So that's my
distraction.
that's my sale, that people know that I care about them and I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, and I want to add, like, you have a very sweet, like, energy, and I feel like even without you saying it, the people in your life know that. But I do agree that it's important that we do vocalize that because people cannot read what's going on inside our minds. And I know for me, I can come across as being really serious and stoic and like I have my shit together. But
Right.
it's a lot of that is a fear of like letting my wall down and being vulnerable and being seen. I'm very good at seeing other people, but when someone sees me, I get a little squirrely, and that's something I'm
I
trying to
do
work
too. No,
on.
I do
What is
too.
something you're trying to work on?
No, I do too. I feel the same way. I'm a little better at giving than receiving. So I do think sometimes when someone says something to me, I just need to, instead of saying like, "Oh yeah, you too," it's kind of
Yeah.
that's such a deflection. Just say thank you. Like
Yeah.
that's a vulnerable, like, wow, you saw me.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
why
do
do we
think it's,
always think that we owe somebody something if they're giving us something? You know, I was on the
I think it's
massage
just
table and I'm like, should I be like sending her love or something? And I'm like, wait a minute, this is the service that I'm paying for. You don't owe her anything. You're here, receive it, you know? I'm trying to teach myself how to receive too.
Yeah, me too. No, that's a good one. And I think this season, I think it's important. Like not last time we talked about men's health in November, and I shaved my beard last week because of the end of
Yes.
November. And I just think, there's too many suicides. There's too many, like I think I know 6 or 7 people that have taken their lives. And sometimes if you just a little, you don't know when you tell someone you care about them, you're thinking about them, you'll text like just a little love, how it could go a long way for someone that's just in a bad spot, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So tell everybody more about what you do, where they can find your book.
Sure. Yeah, lifeissales.com. You can find my book and find more courses, some sales courses there as well. For those of you that want to learn more about selling, there's a lot of free videos, and we do have a sales course you can roll in. And then there's richlyons.com has a lot of videos too on social emotional intelligence and such. And then my book's on Amazon, Life is Sales, a holistic approach to sales, self-discovery, and living a life of purpose. So it's kind of all those things. It's not just about sales. So
Beautiful, beautiful. Do you have any last minute thoughts on our topic today?
no, thank you. I appreciate. I always feel very aligned with you on our topic. So I appreciate you having me, and and hopefully we can create a little more awareness out there because I think it goes a long way. It goes a long way.
I think it's a really important topic. And I think just quashing that idea that sales is bad or wrong and looking at it from everything in life is sales. And if you connect to it that way, it'll actually help you today, tomorrow, and 10 years from now.
Right. And if we can help other people, right? I mean, and that will help us, right? I mean, service is a great thing, right? I mean, that goes a long way.
Yeah. Before we go, I'll say this. I was at a yoga class and it was a new class and I literally just looked in someone's direction and looked them in the eye and smiled. And they
Wow.
said to me after that, that's the first time in a long time that someone has actually looked them in the eye and smiled without turning away. And they were so like, it affected them so much that it stopped and made me think because I was like, wow, like that little thing changed this person's whole entire day. And they messaged me and said that they actually had a really good week that week because something in them
Oh,
shifted when I sent them that love that you're talking
that
about. So
energy. No, I love that. That's so sweet.
yeah, little things go a long way. I think people need to remember that.
Amen. Yeah, especially in the holidays, right? Which I think is great.
Yeah, and play the long game. Thank you so much for being here. What a powerful conversation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Lisa.
Yeah, and to our audience, please do not forget to like and subscribe. We will have all of those links in the show notes for you guys to have easy access to all of Rich's wonderful tools. Until next time, take care, everyone.